So I just started the recording. I'll throw the recording up on YouTube. So if you want to go back and review, you can.
Okay.
So this is our Inventory Pro for Windows screen. I'm going to start the demo out. We'll probably split this basically in half, and Zach will finish it up.
Mm-hmm.
That way you get a fresh look at this after a little bit. So our default screen when you log in is generally the Item Master List screen. And this is, in general, you can see not filtered by a warehouse for this particular user. In this demo application, we've got, looks like 9 or 10 warehouses going here. 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, 8, and then the global all warehouses. So the system has generic users, and then you have groups of users, and in this case we just have 4 generic groups: admin, customers, employees, and suppliers. And then you get group permissions, and the group permissions are what each group basically gets to do in the system. So administrators, you can see here, can do pretty much everything. And if I flip to the customer group, you can see they can virtually do almost nothing. They can look at their purchase orders, maybe. What do we have them looking at?
Probably just shipping orders.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. Here's some check marks on shipping orders. So does that make sense? How you log in with a username and a password, and that username and password is associated with a group. So actually, let me show a little bit more detail on that. If I drill into the users, I'm logged in as CISS ADM, which is an administrative user. And this is where you can set the attributes of the users: email addresses, home page. So a customer, you probably would have just land right on their warehouse and their order list, so they see a very narrow collection of data.
You can also set them up as read-only or something else if you just want them to be able to view their information and not make any changes.
Right. So I don't know if you have any intention of letting customers see anything, but
we're not sure about that yet.
Yeah, it's an option down the road. So there's also import-export utilities. So if you needed to import a catalog from a supplier or more items for some reason, you can do it through Excel. I'll just export this warehouse's inventory. So basically, I just exported the Acme Manufacturing inventory list out, and you can figure out where the scroll bar is on my screen. Here we go. You can see there's quite a few columns to the export, so quite a few attributes of the inventory. And then you can literally just like edit this Excel spreadsheet and then re-import it back into Inventory Pro if you needed to make a bunch of changes and you wanted to just do them in Excel. So if I go back to the item master list, maybe we should start with multiple warehouses since you guys were, that's one of your interests. Warehouses are really easy to define. You just go to the warehouses list. Usually this is done by an administrator. And you can just, are the screens easy enough for you to see, or are they too small?
No, they're fine.
Okay. You just click Add New Warehouse. and it brings you into, you know, a pretty generic screen. And we can just, I'm just going to call it New Warehouse. The required fields are over here with a check mark, so I actually filled out one that wasn't required. But these check boxes down here are relatively important, whether it's a bill to, a ship to, or a ship from, and whether it's a warehouse or not. That's pretty much all I have to fill out. So now if I click save, now, and if I go back to my list, we'll have New Warehouse in my list, right? Did I say New Warehouse or My Warehouse?
East Rutherford.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Sorry. So that's all there is to creating warehouses. And then you can create locations in the warehouse. And you just click on locations. And depending on your operation, this can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want it to be. You can have just like one big generic location, or you can have thousands of
individual like aisles or, you know, columns or rows.
Right. Bins. So you can get this as granular as you need. And again, you can filter this by warehouse. So you only see the locations that are in the warehouse that you're working in. Okay. Like this one only has one. Questions so far? Making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. One of the things that we're wondering about is how do you transfer inventory from one warehouse to the other? And we have one main warehouse, which is our own warehouse, and then we have consignment warehouses all over the U.S. So we transfer from our warehouse to the other warehouses, but it's not a sale until they sell it.
Right. So we do consignment inventory, actually. Give me a little bit more detail on your consignment. Do you do 30, 60, 90-day aging, or is it purely invoiced when they consume it?
Yeah, it's invoiced when they consume it.
All right. So I'm trying to think, Zach, when
well, that's pretty much how ASI does it.
yeah.
One of our other clients, I mean, they essentially, you know, once the customer marks it as consumed in the inventory system, they will, you know, run a report on like a weekly basis and then just generate invoices when they see the stock being consumed.
Would also sends back an email every time.
Oh yeah, they also get the email alerts. Yeah.
There's an. Let me see if I can pull up an email for you.
We essentially get an inventory reconciliation from our customer once a month that tells us what product they sold.
Okay.
Our issue right now is that with only having one warehouse, we don't have a way to track what we ship them. Right. So they'll generate, in essence, purchase orders throughout the month for item they want to add to their consignment warehouse. And so ship them the product, and then we need to relieve our inventory out of our warehouse, but we don't have a mechanism for that right now.
Ben. Sorry.
There, but
You just want me to demonstrate the ASI process, Ben, or?
Yeah, it works a little. I guess I'm. There's a couple different ways we can do this. The warehouses. I logged into a a test site that's essentially doing this. And the way theirs works is we have par levels or reorder levels for each item. Let me go back to the so if I click on the reorder level here, so I lied. But I thought this was working on a reorder level point where they could have, we have reorder points for items per warehouse. So you can set a min and a max and a reorder point and an economic order quantity per item per warehouse, so that you won't be replenishing every time they issue one of an item. You wouldn't necessarily trigger a reorder. You know, you
can wait until maybe you need to ship a case, or it's more economical to ship maybe 6 in a pallet or something like that. And you can set those points up on a per item basis in the system.
Right now, we're not connected to their warehouse, so we wouldn't know if they're low on something. They basically monitor that, and then they tell us what they want.
Well,
okay.
The way this one works with them, I don't know if this is a possibility for you or not. But their issue screen is basically based on a scanner, and all of the product we send them has a unique serial number on it, and they basically scan the serial number on every item they consume, and it automatically tells us, what the item was that they used, and that's what gets triggered in this email. See the serial number here?
Yeah.
They would scan that in, and it would tell you that, they used this part.
And that serial number, and they consumed it. Essentially, they use very small, they invoice very small but expensive items, so they basically track it by serial number for each one that gets consumed. So that's how their system works. That's not necessarily how you need to do it, though. If you're doing small quantities, it might make sense, but you can also do it in other methods as well.
They're actually kind of just the opposite. We're doing large quantities of non-serialized, items. I mean, we're just,
gotcha.
just product.
We would get something that looks like an invoice, but is maybe you just want to call it a packing slip. So that packing slip would have to be depleted from our warehouse and added to their warehouse. And we're looking for an automated way to do that and to track that.
So can you just give me hold on.
Well, Ben, I mean, it just sounds like a transit slip or a shipping order, to be honest.
Well, it's a transit slip for sure to start with, because a shipping order relieves the inventory out of the system completely. So, transit slip will get them in. But so are you guys sending like skids of mulch or something, or, with bags on it? Or?
We sell like planters, like flower pots. Okay, so we have a couple of warehouses, one's in California, one's in Oregon, and we're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So our main warehouse is here, and our customer warehouse, where we sell to them on consignment, there's a couple of warehouses in the our West Coast area. So they order, for example, many pallets of many different types of planters, for example. And we need to relieve those from our inventory at our main warehouse and add those to the inventory at their warehouse. But then once a month, they will give us a document that says they sold X amount, and so we would have to readjust the inventory at their warehouse.
Are you averse to giving them access to the system at all, so that they could, receive and issue goods? If we send them a transit slip with, these planters, would they be willing to log into the system and say, "Yep, we received it," and can acknowledge receipt? And then when they issue things out, would it be,
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen that way. I mean, but we can do that ourselves. I mean,
yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ben, we also have a system option that lets transits be completed immediately. So, if there's nobody on the other end marking it received, you can just mark it as, shipped out of the warehouse, essentially.
Right. That's what we want to do. We just want to say, we shipped it, therefore they have it.
Okay.
Now, does this system write it back to Peachtree? Do you do all of the inventory work with inside of your web portal and it writes it back to Sage, or do you do the work in Sage and then it writes it to this web
So
page?
it's a one-way interface from our application into Sage. Now, again, I mean, our interface primarily tracks, purchase orders and sales orders. So if we're doing everything through in transits, there might be some customization involved in order to actually track that, the consuming of that product. But we do post back to Sage anything that happens in our application.
But we don't do work just through transit. We also invoice and send product out of our own warehouse as well to many customers across the U.S. So.
Oh, okay.
We're doing both, but we have this one customer who has about 9 warehouses, and we're doing work with them now in probably 3 or 4 of them, but it's growing quickly, and we can see it quickly getting out of hand because we're not able to track it easily.
Understood. Yeah, that makes sense then. So the only thing we might have an issue with there would be possibly, like I just said, as far as tracking the in transit and the consumption of that. But all the standard, shipping orders are tracked in our system. So, and they are posted back against Sage Peachtree.
So Zach, I gave you keyboard and mouse.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Do you enter all of so if you have 100 customers, you enter all of their orders in your web-based portal and it writes it back to Sage, or do you enter the orders into Sage and then it goes into your system?
It goes from our system into Sage. So any new customers, any new orders or anything like that, they would be put into our system, and then our system will copy them back over to Sage. Ben, if you want to make me the presenter, I can show how the Sage interface works a bit there. Okay, and
do you guys work with EDI so that we could import our transactions from our EDI software into your system?
Yeah,
we do have a
in
few.
the past, yeah.
We do have a few standard import methods, and we do, quite a few different data exchanges with various custom solutions. So it can be done. Okay, so can you see my screen over here?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, and just making sure you're on the right one. Can you see Sage open?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so, I need to log back in. Okay, so you can see I just logged in as a different user, and this is just an example of the warehouse filtering. So in our system, we have warehouse filtering by part as well. So only a short list of about 10 parts are turned on here for this particular warehouse that this account is locked into. But let me jump over to shipping orders here, and I'll just create a new order quick. Just select the customer we're shipping it to. And we have a lot of other fields on here as well that you can use. I'm just doing a very basic order here. So, and then we just need to add an item onto this so it'll copy over into the interface. Okay, so now this order is in a state where it can be copied over because, we have an open order here for, 5 items. Of this particular unit. So if I come over here to the Sage interface, essentially what this utility does is it will monitor our software for records that are marked to be posted over to Sage. So you'll see here we have the sales order that I just generated, number 7, as well as 2 updates for that sales order. So I'll just pause that for the moment. And if we jump over into Sage, and I can remember where I'm going. Oops, I opened on my other screen here. You can see here we now have a new order for, let me make that a little bigger, shipping order number 7, sales order number 7, and essentially just copies it straight over. And here's the header file. So any, whoever it's set to be billed to or shipped to, all that information will copy over, so you can have multiple shipping locations for a single billing location, things like that. It does support those types of features in Sage and in our system. And yeah, it's pretty much just a straight copy of the data over from one to the other.
Yeah, that works pretty nice.
And that works for customers, vendors, inventory, purchase orders, and sales orders. It also generates sales invoices once the order is completed. So you can see here I have a couple that I completed a while back.
We would have to set up our entire customer database over again inside of your program, right?
Yes. Normally I can just pull that out of the customer list in Sage. Normally what I'll do is I'll export this list to Excel and bring it into our system. And then moving forward, you would just enter the new customers into our system and they would get copied straight over.
Okay.
And I can do the same thing for the vendors list as well.
Okay.
Now, do you want to show a transit slip real quick?
Mm-hmm. So actually, I need to be in a account that has more than one warehouse. Are you still logged into CIS as admin? Let me in. Cool. Okay, so this is the item master list which Ben described earlier. On the right side of this screen, we have the stocking columns. If you click on something that's in stock here, oh, I just got logged out again. Whoops. We're both using the same account, so yeah. When you logged out, it clears all open sessions for the administrator account. No big deal. So here we are. This is the locate move screen. So this will show you exactly what you have in stock in the current warehouse, or currently I'm in, all warehouses, so it will show me everything. So let's see, that's an Acme Medical, so we'll just switch over to there. So from here, I can split this lot into, I can split it from one lot into 2 lots, do different operations such as that. Alternatively, I can go over, we have the transit utility. So if I click on that at the bottom, this will allow us to select, whatever items and whatever parts we'd like and ship them to another warehouse. So here I can just, mark this item here and select which warehouse I'd like to send it to. And we'll put it in Acme Manufacturing. And we just click Ship Units. Now you'll notice here it just gave me an error. That's because that part number is not turned on for the other warehouse. Let me turn that on real quick, and we can run that transaction.
So it looks like you have about 4 inventory items on that screen, but if we had, say, 100 inventory items that we wanted to transfer all at one time, we just check all 100, right?
Yes, and the way our system works, so for example, if you brought into your system a lot of 1,000 units, until the system is told otherwise, it will consider that as one record. So you'll see one record for 1,000 units in the system there. Like I showed you, you can split the lot into different groups as well. So, I split this from 100 into 2 lots of 50. And then you can essentially just transfer that, 50 or 100 or whatever number over. But yes, you would see a lot of items here if you had a lot of individual rows of data in the system.
So for example, if you have in our main warehouse 1,000 items that we get in, and we decide on the 15th of April we want to ship 60 of those items to another warehouse, we have to break it into a separate lot of 60?
Yes, that's one of the options. So from here, you would just split the lot into, 2 different lots. Alternatively, you could use the reorder points in the system and then automatically generate that based on the reorder points. So you can set reorder points on a per warehouse basis, and we do have a restocking transit capability, which will basically look at your reorder points and suggest what you need to restock to the other warehouse based on that. And then it's just a few clicks normally in order to generate, even, hundreds of items on a single transit slip. Otherwise, yes, you would have to come in here and do it individually. We do have some search features that you can use, which might help with that process, but it can be a little manual. We could also possibly create an import sheet for you. So if you wanted to generate an Excel spreadsheet and then import that into the system to run the transaction, that might also be an option.
Okay.
So if I click ship now, this should actually transit.
If you did the import from an Excel sheet and you had your 1,000 pieces, and on the Excel sheet you imported 50, would it just deduct the 50 from the 1,000 then?
Yes, it would do a split of the lots, and it would move 50 of them over to the other warehouse, and it would leave the 950 in the existing warehouse.
Okay.
And your invoice from one way, specifically only from one way.
Can you generate an invoice strictly from one warehouse?
Based on the transit slips, we can generate, let me see if I can click on that and pull up a packing slip. We could possibly change the, hang on, we'll see when it opens up. Okay, so this is a standard, I don't know why it did that. This is a standard transit slip. We could possibly generate this as an invoice instead. That is another option. But currently it's just a standard transit slip. It'll show you all of the items and the price and how many were shipped. We do alter these PDF reports for a lot of clients, so we could possibly change this to show invoice instead of showing, transit slip at the top there. And you can see this is the transit slip we just generated a moment ago when I shipped that 50 units over here. Any questions or concerns on that, or?
No, I don't believe so. Not on that. No.
Okay. And then currently in the system, I have it set that you have to mark items as received. As you said, we'd turn on the option where you just place them in transit. But I'll just receive these into this warehouse. We'll put it into damaged goods for now. Okay, you can see it put the stock into location damaged goods. And you'll also notice down here we don't have anything else in transit, so it's just showing 0 results. And if we go back up to the item master list and we look at Acme Manufacturing, we can see that we have 50 units in that warehouse now. That also generates a transaction in the audit trail log. So if I jump over there, you'll see we have the stock movement over to this warehouse recorded here. And this audit trail will track every transaction in the system. So every stock transaction that occurs is logged to this report, and you can easily see what's been happening in the system as far as like sales orders, shipping orders, direct receipts, direct adjustments, anything like that. And we also allow for customizable reason codes. So for example, if you wanted a specific code for scrap or damaged goods, you could track that separately from your normal ordering processes or your normal stock transit processes.
Okay. You do anything?
Also,
we have some items that are kits or that have bills of materials in your system.
Mm-hmm. I did see that on your request. We do have bill of materials in the system. However, we don't currently have the calculations in the exact way that you described. But I do think we could do that as far as if a kit is on an order or you try to ship a kit, show that number against the parts of that kit, not just against the kit item number. So here we have a few assemblies in the system. Unfortunately, none of them have parts because this is a demo site we don't use very often. So essentially here you can build an assembly, different parts, labor hours, units. It sounds like you'll just be using units. I don't know if there's any assembly time involved in that, but you can add it into this screen and track it.
Okay.
And assemblies are tracked similar to standard inventory items. So essentially in our system, it's just tracked as a separate part number. So you can see here we have the assembly types. So we have 4 different parts in the system that are defined as assemblies, and you can add different parts to them on the bill of materials. So as I said, we'd have to change how the stock calculations work in order to show the quantities from the assembly and not just the quantity ordered from the assembly, to show kind of that drilled down method, but I think it's doable in the system.
What we have is that we get orders in, let's just say we have 50 orders that we enter in the system, and all of those orders have assemblies on them. What we want to know is what are the items that are inside of those assemblies, how many of those are on order, and what does our inventory stock look like against those orders of those individual pieces. Is that something that you can track?
Yeah, that's what I gathered from the email. Yes, I think that's something we can track. It would require alteration to the stock count procedures in the system, how those calculations are run. But essentially on this screen here, you can see we have the in-stock amounts, the on-order amounts, and the committed amounts. Essentially what I need to change here would be the committed amounts. So essentially, if you order one of the assemblies, I need to post that committed quantity back against, let's say, this item was on that. I'd need to show 10 of this is committed to that order. Like I said, it's doable. It would require some changes to the stock count methods, but I don't think there's any reason we couldn't do it in the system.
Is that a big deal to change that?
It would be customization, and it would need to be quoted. Off the top of my head, I'd allocate at least 10 hours or so of billable time to do that type of customization. It's not incredibly difficult. It's just a matter of it needs to be changed on this report and how many other reports. So it's just a little labor intensive in that respect, as far as making that alteration on all the appropriate reports that you're going to be using.
Okay.
Just to clarify that, it's $125 an hour, so that'd be about $1,250.
Okay. Any other questions from you guys?
Landed cost. Did your system calculate that for us?
I couldn't hear that. Could you say that again?
Like
I think that was landed costs. Sorry about that.
We bring in product from overseas, so there's FOB costs at the port overseas, and then we add freight to that, and then that generates our landed cost. So it's one. I guess it could be looked at as a kit within a kit.
I know we've done landed costs before for another client. I don't remember off the top of my head who it was or the specifics of it. Ben, do you
We did it for
do you have any other
Metcan.
information on that?
Yeah, we did it for Metcan. And I honestly have forgotten how, I think we averaged out, if there was 10 items on the order, we averaged out the shipping, and whatever other handling costs there were, and just added them to each item when they were received.
Okay.
There might be a grid where you can see it and then alter the value. I'm not quite sure if you would want it to be automatic or if you'd want to be able to alter it.
Yeah, and ours is not like a cost average because we have a different freight cost for every item that we have in our.
Based on cubic feet.
it's all based on the cubic feet of the product.
Oh,
Okay, well, if it's a calculation based on cubic feet,
yeah,
we could do yeah.
in the item master list, we can put a cubic foot attribute.
And base the calculations off of that, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, we could give you, like, we can generate a cost, like one single cost per cubic foot, and that could then.
Right. That's easy to add to the formulas.
Okay. Okay. You can is that something that you just calculate the cubic feet? Just
it depends on what you'd like. I mean, it's always editable as far as the cost. So if I jump over to the receive screen, essentially we can populate this with the adjusted cost, and then you could always change it if you need to. But it depends on whatever process you'd like us to use for that. We can adjust it at different points in the purchasing process, wherever you'd like.
Okay.
I don't know if they've worked with True Commerce before.
Yeah, we're back to the EDI question. We work with True Commerce. Is that somebody that this system will connect with?
We haven't specifically dealt with True Commerce before, but
we have done interfaces with other things like WooCommerce, BigCommerce, a couple other ones as well.
Yeah, but Sterling, we did a lot of consignment work for International Paper. All of their transactions were set up back in the day using MQ series. So True Commerce is a traditional van. They're sending you actual EDI transactions, or
yes.
are they sending you? Okay. Yeah, we'd want to see the format of the transactions.
Okay. So is that something that you have to do custom work to get that to function?
We would have to customize it, but it's it's something we've done in the past. I'm trying to remember the transaction numbers. Like a 204 is a load tender, and a 956 might be a bill of lading, or 958. We did a fair amount with distribution center shipping. The problem with EDI is all the fields are optional. So your layout is going to be different than anybody else's. So every EDI transaction, it ends up being a custom transaction to us.
But like we said earlier, we've done them in various ways. I mean, occasionally we just have Excel files that get uploaded nightly, and the transactions are processed off of that. Occasionally we do live interfaces where the other system will post transactions directly against our system. We also post against other systems occasionally. It really depends on what the application is and what the format is as far as any quotes being drawn up on that type of work. Occasionally we do get lucky and we might already have an interface, but it's not one we've dealt with before. So
if you could send us a couple of sample True Commerce transactions, that would really help.
Or even just any exports or any other information like that you might want to have operate with our system.
I can do a quick look.
Sage directly. So is there a way to have it right from Sage to their system?
What Danielle just said is right now, Sage communicates directly with True Commerce.
Oh.
Is there any way to backwards connect that?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Because everything's functioning very, very well with Sage, with True Commerce. So I didn't know if you could connect and.
We'd have to look at how it's set up currently, but that's a possibility to just possibly pull that data back out or it depends on if is it a push pull, or how is the data sent over to True Commerce? Is it putting it into Sage, or is it taking it out of Sage?
We do both. We actually import our sales invoices into the EDI system, and then we export the orders out of the EDI system into Sage. So what you're asking for samples are just the raw data that comes through.
Okay. Well, we might be able to. Well, the problem is there's no warehousing in Sage, so I don't know how we'd pull that information back out.
Well, can I ask, so how are your customers' orders getting into True Commerce? Do they do it through like a website today, or how are those transactions getting generated?
I don't have a good answer for that question. It's just when True Value generates their orders, they the EDI system, and then it goes through the.
Okay, so it's a really large retailer. Okay. Okay. Is it pretty much just True Value, or is it all of just some of your orders are coming in through EDI?
No, we do a lot of it, and we do as much as possible because it's all automated. We don't have to input it. We don't have any chance for any error, any human error. So it's the more we can do by EDI, the better off we are.
Right. It's just like, as Zach was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of e-commerce interfaces out there now that have replaced, or not, they kind of like parallel what the old EDI systems used to do. Huh. Okay.
All right. Well, that's all the questions we have at the moment. So.
Well, let me ask you that. Do you sell anything through an e-commerce site at all?
Yeah, we sell like through Amazon and Wayfair. Yeah, we do.
Do all of those ripple back through True Commerce, or do they come in separately?
Separately right now.
Separately.
Okay. Okay.
But most of our business is with standard retail stores or distributors.
Okay.
Right.
So we're a distributor basically who sells a lot to other distributors.
Right. Okay. All right. Again, if it's possible for you to send us some sample, I don't know if it's possible or not for you to send us some sample True Commerce transactions. That would really help.
Okay.
Yes, are you looking for the raw data?
Are you looking for the raw data that comes right from True Commerce?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess our questions are, so your transactions that are coming in from Amazon and your other e-commerce sites, how are they showing up in Sage now? Do they get manually entered, or do they automatically show up?
Manual. Those are manual.
There might be some opportunity there. Okay. All right.
Well, I think we have what we need for today, but we'll probably be back in touch because it looks like your software does most of what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns, you can always shoot us an email or give us a call. If you'd like, we can also set up a demo site for you as well, if you'd like to play around with the system a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'd like to. One of the biggest things that we are maybe have a concern about is the bill of materials. We want to be able to see how that would function, and when you put an order together, that it would pull from the inventory, properly. That's the type of thing that we're very interested in, because almost everything we sell is through that.
Can I make a suggestion that if you can send us an Excel spreadsheet with, a list of items
Yep, we can do that.
we'll import that for you into a warehouse for you.
Okay.
And then the demo will be based on your data.
All right.
And send us a bill of materials as well. You know, it doesn't have
Sure.
to be just items.
Okay.
Whatever you can send to help.
All right. Yeah, we can put that together and.
Okay,
Great.
All right. Sounds
good.
great.
thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
I'll create a list of items.